And when you talk to them, bring that life into the conversation, not to brag, but to share. I hiked this trail last week. It was tough, but the view was worth it. They might not react right away, and that's okay. The point isn't their response. It's your growth. Keep going. Add more pieces: a friend you meet for coffee, a goal you chase, a corner of your world that's yours alone. This won't feel natural at first. You might miss the old rhythm, the comfort of being their everything. You might worry they'll think you don't care. But here's what happens. As you build that life, you'll feel fuller, not because they're filling you, but because you are. And they'll notice. They might call less at first, confused by the shift, but then they'll call more, not out of duty, but because they're intrigued. Mom's doing what now? Dad's got a whole thing going on? They'll start to see you as someone with your own story, not just theirs. And that's when the respect kicks in, when they realize you're not defined by them, but by you. I've seen it happen. Take Mark, a dad who'd spent his retirement waiting for his kids to visit. One day he said, "Enough," and joined a woodworking group. He started crafting furniture, losing himself in the sawdust and satisfaction. His son dropped by unannounced once, saw a half-finished chair and said, "You made this? That's awesome." Mark didn't need his son's approval. He had his own pride, and that's why his son gave it. Mark's life wasn't about waiting anymore. It was about creating, and his kids respected him for it. You can have that too. Your happiness doesn't have to orbit your children. It can shine on its own. Build a life outside of them, not to push them away, but to pull yourself forward. Find your joy, your meaning, your independence. They'll see it, the strength, the spark, the you that's more than just their parent. And they'll respect you, not because you need them to, but because you've shown them you're someone worth admiring. So here we are, at the end of this journey together, 6 powerful steps to reclaim the respect you deserve from your children, not through force or frustration, but through the quiet strength of who you are. Let's bring it all home. Stop chasing their approval, because when you respect yourself first, they'll follow your lead. Led by example, because your dignity speaks louder than any argument ever could. Withdraw your emotional dependence, because standing strong on your own draws them closer than neediness ever will. Set boundaries and enforce them, because respect isn't a gift they give, it's a standard you set. Stop giving without appreciation, because when your kindness comes with limits, they'll learn to value it. And build a life outside of them, because a parent with purpose isn't just loved, they're admired. This isn't about changing your kids, it's about changing you. You've spent years being their rock, their guide, their everything. Now it's time to be your own foundation. You don't have to wait for their permission to feel worthy. You already are. Every step you take to honor yourself, your voice, your time, your joy sends a ripple. They'll feel it. They'll see you differently, not as someone who needs their nod to shine, but as someone who glows with or without it. And in time, that respect will come back, not because you demanded it, but because you lived it. You're not just their parent anymore, you're a force, a presence, a person they can't ignore. So start today. Pick one action, one shift, and step into it. The life you build, the respect you earn, it's waiting for you. Thank you for joining us on this journey here at ZenLight 8. Your presence means the world to us. We're so grateful to have you in this community, sharing these moments of growth and inspiration. What did you take away today? Drop a comment below. Maybe it's one action that hit home, or a plan to try it out in your own life. Your thoughts light us up and keep us going. So don't hold back. If this resonated with you, give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you never miss what's next. Share it with someone who needs it, a friend, a parent, anyone ready to step into their own power. Your support fuels us to keep creating content that informs, uplifts, and inspires. Thanks for being here, ZenLight 8 family. We can't wait to see you in the next one. Welcome to ZenLight 8, your go-to place for unlocking a more meaningful and fulfilling life. Have you ever felt hurt because your kids no longer respect you the way they once did? You've spent a lifetime sacrificing for them, guiding them, putting them first, but now your advice is ignored, your opinions brushed off, and sometimes you even feel like a burden. Before you let frustration take over, hold on. Today, Zenlight 8 is sharing 6 simple yet powerful shifts that can help you reclaim the respect you deserve from your children. No fights, no arguments, just transformation. Stick around until the end, because your journey to rediscovering your worth starts right here, right now. Action 1. Stop chasing their approval. There comes a moment in every parent's life when the ground beneath them shifts. You've spent years, decades, even pouring your heart into raising your children. You've stayed up late helping with homework, skipped your own plans to cheer at their games, and put their needs ahead of your own more times than you can count. You did it all because you love them, because you wanted them to thrive. But then one day something changes. Maybe they roll their eyes when you offer advice. Maybe they brush off your concerns with a dismissive, "Yeah, whatever." Or maybe they stop calling unless they need something. And it stings. If you've ever felt that ache, that quiet frustration of realizing your children don't respect you the way they once did, you're not alone. It's a pain that cuts deep, and your first instinct might be to try harder, to do more, to be more, to win back their approval. But here's the truth I want you to hear today. The more you chase their approval, the less they respect you. And the way to turn that around isn't about pleasing them. It's about respecting yourself. Let's unpack this, because it's a shift that can feel counterintuitive at first. As parents, we're wired to give. It's in our DNA to want our kids to be happy, to feel loved, to see us as the steady rock they can always lean on. So when that dynamic starts to fray, when they talk over you, ignore your input, or treat you like an afterthought, it's natural to think, if I just do more, they'll see how much I care. Maybe you start bending over backwards to fit into their schedules. You say yes to every favor, even when it means canceling your own plans. You bite your tongue when they snap at you, telling yourself it's not worth the fight. You might even catch yourself apologizing when you've done nothing wrong, just to keep the peace. I get it, you're hoping that if you show them enough love, enough patience, enough sacrifice, they'll finally appreciate you. But here's the hard reality. That approach doesn't work. In fact, it backfires. Why? Because respect isn't something you can earn by giving up your own voice. It's not a reward for being endlessly agreeable or for putting yourself last. Respect comes from a different place. It's rooted in how you carry yourself, in the boundaries you set, in the way you show the world and your children that you value who you are. When you chase their approval, you're sending a subtle message. My worth depends on what you think of me. And once they pick up on that, even unconsciously, they start to see you as someone who's always available, always adjustable, always willing to shrink yourself to fit their needs. Over time, that doesn't build respect. It builds expectation. They stop seeing you as a person with your own strength and start seeing you as someone they can take for granted. It's not because they're cruel or ungrateful. It's because you've taught them that your feelings come second. I once knew a woman named Linda, a mother of 3 who'd spent her life being the glue that held her family together. She was the kind of mom who'd drop everything if one of her kids needed her. And they knew it. As they grew into adults, though, something shifted. They'd call her at the last minute to babysit, expecting her to rearrange her day. They'd dismiss her suggestions about their careers or relationships with a quick, "Mom, times have changed." And sometimes, they'd even snap at her when she asked too many questions, leaving her feeling small and unappreciated. First, Linda tried harder. She'd cook their favorite meals when they visited, even if they barely said thank you. She'd offer help they didn't ask for, hoping they'd see how much she cared. But the more she gave, the less they seemed to notice. One day, she told me, "I just want them to love me the way they used to." Her voice broke when she said it, and I could see the weight she was carrying, the belief that if she could just do enough, they'd respect her again. But here's what Linda didn't realize at the time. She was chasing a ghost. The love and respect she wanted couldn't be won by giving up more of herself. It wasn't about doing, it was about being. So one day, she decided to try something different. Instead of saying yes to every request, she started saying no when it didn't work for her. When her daughter called at 8 p.m. asking her to watch the grandkids the next morning, Linda calmly replied, "I'd love to help, but I've got plans tomorrow. Let me know earlier next time, and I'll see what I can do." When her son brushed off her advice with a sarcastic comment, She didn't argue or apologize. She simply said, "I'll share what I think because I care. You don't have to agree, but I'm not here to be dismissed." It wasn't easy at first. Her kids pushed back, surprised by the change. But over time, something shifted. They started calling ahead to check her availability. They listened, really listened, when she spoke. Why? Because Linda stopped acting like she needed their approval to feel whole. She started respecting herself, and in doing so, she taught them to respect her too. This is the heart of it. Respect starts with you. If you're always bending over backwards, always swallowing your own needs, always chasing that nod of appreciation, you're telling your children that you don't matter as much as they do. And they'll believe it. But when you stand up for yourself, or not with anger or demands, but with quiet, steady confidence, you send a different message. I'm here, I'm valuable, and I won't let myself be an afterthought. That's when they start to see you differently. It's not instant, and it's not always comfortable. They might resist at first because change shakes up what's familiar. But in time, they'll adjust. They'll start to see you not as someone who's desperate to please them, but as someone who knows their own worth. And that's a person worth respecting. So how do you make this shift in your own life? Let's break it down. First, take a hard look at where you're chasing approval. Are you saying yes when you want to say no? Are you staying silent when you want to speak? Are you rearranging your world to fit theirs, even when it leaves you drained? Be honest with yourself, because awareness is where change begins. Next, start small. The next time your child asks for something that doesn't work for you, practice saying no calmly, kindly, but firmly. I can't this time, but let's figure out another way. The next time they dismiss you, don't let it slide. Try something like, I'm happy to hear your side, but I expect the same respect when I talk. You don't need to raise your voice or dig into the past. Just hold your ground with grace. And here's the key. Don't expect them to like it right away. They might grumble. They might test you. That's okay. It means they're feeling the shift. Stay consistent. Every time you choose self-respect over approval, you're laying a brick in a new foundation. You're showing them that you're not just their parent. You're a person with your own life, your own voice, your own boundaries. And as those bricks stack up, something incredible happens. They start to see you in a new light. They start to value your time because it's not guaranteed. They start to listen because you're not begging to be heard. They start to respect you because you've shown them what respect looks like. I'll leave you with this. You don't have to chase anyone's approval to prove your worth, not even your children's. You've already earned your place in their lives through years of love and sacrifice. Now it's time to claim it, not by doing more, but by being more yourself, more confident, more unapologetic about the space you take up in the world. Stop chasing, start standing, and watch how they follow your lead. Because when you respect yourself first, the respect you deserve will come back to you, not because you demanded it, but because you lived it. Action 2. Don't argue, lead by example. Picture this. You're sitting at the dinner table with your grown children, sharing a piece of advice or a story from your life, something you think might help them. You've barely finished your sentence when one of them cuts you off with a sharp, "Mom, that's not how it works anymore." Or, "Dad, you don't get it." Maybe they roll their eyes, talk over you, or laugh in a way that makes you feel small. Your chest tightens, and that familiar sting creeps into the realization that they don't respect you the way they used to. Your first instinct might be to push back. You want to argue, to remind them of everything you've done, to say, "I deserve better than this." You might even feel the words bubbling up. "I raised you. I sacrificed for you. You need to listen to me." But before you let that frustration spill out, let me share something that could save you years of heartache. Arguing won't get you the respect you're looking for. In fact, it'll push it further away. There's a better way, a quieter, stronger way, and it's all about leading by example. Let's be real. When your kids dismiss you or treat you like your voice doesn't matter, it hurts. It's not just about the words they use. It's the message underneath. They're telling you they don't see you as the authority, the guide, the person of wisdom you once were in their eyes. And that shift can feel like a betrayal after all you've given them. So it's natural to want to fight for your place. You might think, if I can just make them see how wrong they are, they'll respect me again. You might raise your voice, list off your sacrifices, or try to prove you're still worth listening to. I've seen it happen time and again, parents digging in, desperate to win the argument, hoping that if they can just get the last word, their kids will finally get it. But here's the truth. Respect isn't something you can argue your way into. It's not a prize you claim by out-talking someone or proving you're right. Respect is earned through something deeper, through the way you carry yourself, the way you respond, the way you show up even when they try to knock you down. Think about it. When was the last time you convinced someone to respect you by fighting with them? I'll bet it's never happened. Arguments don't build bridges. They dig trenches. When you meet disrespect with anger, you're not showing strength. You're showing that they've gotten under your skin. You're handing them the power to rattle you, to pull you into their game. And the more you argue, the more they feel in control. They might walk away thinking they've won, and you're left feeling drained, frustrated, and no closer to the respect you want. I once knew a man named Tom, a father of 2 grown daughters. Tom was a guy who'd always been the problem solver in his family, the one everyone turned to for answers. But as his daughters hit their 30s, they started brushing him off. He'd offer advice about their jobs or finances, and they'd snap back with, "Dad, we've got this," or "You don't understand how things are now." At first, Tom fought back. He'd argue, pointing out how his experience had value, how he'd been through tough times they couldn't imagine. He'd raise his voice, trying to make them hear him, but the more he pushed, the worse it got. They'd shut down, roll their eyes, or just leave the room. Tom told me once, "I just want them to see I'm still their father, not some old guy they can ignore." He was hurting, and he thought arguing would fix it. But one day, Tom tried something different. Instead of jumping into the fray, he stepped back. The next time his daughter dismissed him, he didn't argue. He nodded, said, "I hear you," and let it go. When she interrupted him a week later, he calmly waited until she was done, then said, "I'll finish what I was saying now," and kept going. No anger, no pleading, just quiet confidence. He stopped trying to prove himself with words and started showing his strength through his presence. He listened when they spoke, but he didn't let their tone dictate his response. He carried himself like a man who didn't need to fight for respect, because he already had it within himself. And you know what happened? His daughters started to notice. They saw he wasn't rattled anymore. They saw he wasn't desperate to win. Slowly, they started asking his opinion again. They'd say, "Hey, Dad, what do you think about this?" Not because he demanded it, but because his calm, steady way of being made them want to hear him. Tom didn't argue his way back into their respect. He led them there by example. That's the secret. Respect isn't won through words. It's earned through how you show up. When your kids test you, and they're not just looking at what you say. They're watching how you handle it. If you snap, argue, or chase them down with lectures, you're telling them they've got the upper hand. But if you stay calm, hold your ground, and respond with dignity, you're showing them something different. That you're not shaken by their disrespect, that you don't need to prove your worth, that you're a person of strength who doesn't bend under pressure. It's not about being passive or letting them walk all over you. It's about choosing your battles and winning them with grace. So how do you put this into practice? Start by noticing your triggers. What sets you off? Is it when they interrupt you? When they laugh at your advice? When they act like you're invisible? Pinpoint those moments, because that's where the shift begins. Next time it happens, pause. Take a breath. Don't let your emotions pull you into the fight. Instead, respond with something simple and steady. If they cut you off, try, "I'll wait until you're ready to listen." If they dismiss you, say, "You don't have to agree, but I'm going to say what I think." Keep your tone even, your words clear, no sarcasm. No guilt trips, just confidence. And then let it go. Don't linger, don't lecture, don't try to force them to see your point. Walk away if you need to, but do it with your head high. The goal isn't to win the moment. It's to show them who you are over time. This isn't easy, especially if you're used to arguing back. Your kids might push harder at first, testing this new version of you. That's normal. They're figuring out where the boundaries are. Stay consistent. Every time you choose dignity over debate, you're building something stronger than any argument could. You're showing them what respect looks like, not by demanding it, but by living it. And here's the beautiful part. They'll feel it. They might not say it out loud, and it might take weeks or months, but they'll start to adjust. They'll see you're not the parent who's rattled by their words anymore. They'll see you as someone who stands firm, who doesn't need to yell to be heard, who leads with quiet power. And that's when the respect comes back, not because you fought for it, but because you showed them it was never up for debate. I'll leave you with this. You don't have to argue to prove you're still their parent, still a voice worth hearing. You've already earned that role through years of love and effort. Now it's time to step into it, not with words, but with presence. Led by example, hold your ground with grace, and watch how they follow. Because when you show them what respect looks like in action, they'll start giving it back, not out of obligation, but out of admiration for the person you are. Action 3. Withdraw your emotional dependence. There's a quiet ache that settles in when you realize your children don't fill your life with the warmth they once did. You've loved them fiercely, poured everything into raising them, and for years, they were your world, their laughter, their needs, their milestones. But now they're grown, with lives of their own, and maybe they don't call as often as you'd like. Maybe their visits feel rushed, or their tone carries a hint of impatience when you reach out. It's tempting to lean harder into that connection, to call more, to ask for more, to hope that if you just stay close enough, they'll give you the love and validation you crave. You might think, if they just show me they care, I'd feel whole again. But here's a truth that's hard to hear yet incredibly freeing. Depending on your children for your emotional fulfillment doesn't bring you closer. It pushes them away. And the moment you stop relying on them to feel valued, something shifts. They start respecting you more, not because you need them less, but because you've shown them you're strong enough to stand on your own. Let's sit with this for a minute because it's a big one. As parents, we're used to being needed. When they were little, our kids looked to us for everything: comfort, guidance, a sense of home. And in return, their love filled us up. It was a beautiful exchange, one that made the sleepless nights and endless sacrifices worth it. But as they grow into adults, that dynamic changes. They don't need us the same way anymore. And that's a good thing, a sign we've done our job well. Yet it leaves a void. You might find yourself waiting by the phone, hoping they'll check in. You might drop hints about how much you miss them, or feel a pang when they cancel plans. It's natural to want them to keep being that source of joy, that proof that you matter. So you reach out more, offer more, try to hold onto that feeling of being essential to them. I get it, you love them and you want to feel loved back. But here's where it gets tricky. When they sense that you need them to feel good about yourself, it doesn't draw them in. It weighs them down. Why? Because emotional dependence shifts the power in the relationship. When you rely on your kids for validation, for that call, that visit, that "I love you" to make your day, they start to feel it. It's not that they don't care. It's that they're human. They've got their own lives, jobs, partners, kids, struggles. And when they pick up on your neediness, it can feel like pressure, like an unspoken obligation. Instead of wanting to connect because it's joyful, they might start pulling back because it feels heavy. They might get impatient when you call too often, or distant when you fish for reassurance. And the more you chase that emotional fix, the less they give it, a not out of spite, but because no one respects someone who seems desperate for their approval. I once knew a woman named Diane, a mother of two who'd always been the heart of her family. After her kids moved out, she found herself alone in a quiet house, missing the bustle of their presence. She'd call them every few days, asking about their lives, reminding them how much she loved them. If they didn't pick up, she'd text again, hoping for a reply. When they did visit, she'd cling to every moment, asking when they'd come back. She told me once, "I just want to feel like I'm still part of their world." But what Diane didn't see was that her kids were starting to dread those calls. They felt guilty when they couldn't respond right away, and burdened when they did. Over time, they called less, visited less, and Diane felt more alone than ever. Then one day, Diane made a change. She decided she couldn't keep waiting for her kids to fill that emptiness. She picked up a paintbrush for the first time in years, joined an art class, and started spending her evenings creating instead of staring at her phone. She made friends who weren't tied to her family, planned a solo trip to a place she'd always wanted to see. She didn't stop loving her kids. She just stopped needing them to define her happiness. And something surprising happened. Her son called one day, out of the blue, asking, "Mom, what's this about you painting? Send me a picture." Her daughter texted, "You're going where? That's so cool." They started reaching out more, not because she demanded it, but because they were drawn to her, this version of their mom who had her own spark, her own life. Diane didn't need them to feel valued anymore, and because of that, they respected her in a way they hadn't before. That's the magic of emotional independence. It flips the script. When you stop leaning on your kids to prop up your self-worth, you take the pressure off them. They don't feel like they have to carry you emotionally, and that freedom makes them want to come closer. People, even your own children, are naturally drawn to those who stand strong on their own. When you show them you're not waiting around for their affection to feel complete, they start to see you differently. You're not just mom or dad who's always there, always needing something from them. You're a person with your own richness, your own resilience, and that's someone worth respecting. So how do you start? First, take stock of where you're depending on them. Are you checking your phone too often, hoping they'll reach out? Do you feel crushed when they don't respond? Or empty when they're too busy to connect? Notice those moments. They're your clues. Then, shift your focus. Find something that's yours, not tied to your kids, not about anyone else. Maybe it's a hobby you've let slip, like gardening or writing. Maybe it's joining a group, volunteering, or just taking a walk every morning to clear your head. The point isn't to replace your kids. It's to build a life that doesn't hinge on them. Start small. One new thing a week, 1 hour a day where you're not thinking about what they're doing or not doing. And when you do talk to them, keep it light. Don't fish for reassurance or guilt them into staying on the line. Ask about their day, share a quick story about yours, and let it be. Show them you're okay, more than okay, without needing them to prove it. This shift won't happen overnight, and that's fine. You might still feel that tug to call too much or wait too long for their reply. It's a habit built over years. Be patient with yourself. But every time you choose your own joy over their validation, you're rewriting the story. Your kids might not notice right away, and they might even be confused at first. Why isn't mom calling as much? Dad seems different. Let them wonder. It means they're paying attention. Keep going. The less you need them to feel whole, the more they'll want to be part of your world. They'll call because they're curious about what you're up to. They'll visit because they admire the life you're living. They'll respect you not out of duty, but because you've shown them you don't need their permission to shine. Here's the bottom line. Your worth doesn't live in your children's hands. You don't need their love to prove you're enough, you already are. You've given them years of your heart, and that's a gift that stands on its own. Now it's time to give yourself something too, a life that's full, not because they fill it, but because you do. Withdraw that emotional dependence. Stand tall in your own strength, and watch what happens. They'll come back, not because you chased them, but because they're drawn to the person you've become, someone independent, someone whole, someone they can't help but respect. Action 4. Set boundaries and enforce them. Imagine this. Your grown child calls you late at night, asking for a favor, maybe to borrow money or drop everything to help them out. You're tired, it's inconvenient, but you say yes anyway because you don't want to rock the boat. Or maybe they snap at you during a family gathering, dismissing your opinion with a curt, "You don't get it," and instead of calling it out, you swallow the hurt and let it slide. These moments might seem small, but they add up. Over time, you notice a pattern. They interrupt you, disregard your time, or speak to you in a way that leaves you feeling invisible. Stings, and deep down, you know you deserve better. Your instinct might be to keep the peace, to stay quiet, to give in, to hope they'll figure it out on their own. But here's the truth that can change everything. If your children don't respect you, it's often because you've let them get away with it. Setting boundaries and sticking to them isn't about creating conflict. It's about teaching them that respect isn't optional. It's a requirement, and it starts with you. Let's dig into this, because it's a shift that feels tough but pays off in ways you can't imagine. As parents, we're conditioned to be flexible. We've spent years bending for our kids, adjusting our schedules, biting our tongues, putting their needs first. It's part of the gig and we do it out of love. But when they're adults, that flexibility can turn into a trap. If you let them cross lines, talking down to you, taking your time for granted, ignoring your feelings, without pushing back, you're sending a message. This is okay with me. And they'll keep doing it not because they're bad people, but because they're human. People, especially family, will treat you the way you allow them to. If there's no boundary, there's no limit. You might think, I don't want to fight. I just want us to get along. I hear you, no one wants drama. But here's the catch. Staying silent isn't keeping the peace. It's giving up your voice. And the longer you let disrespect slide, the harder it is to reclaim the respect you deserve. I once knew a man named Paul, a father of 3 who'd always been the rock of his family. Paul was the guy who'd say yes to anything his kids asked, driving across town to fix a car, lending money he couldn't really spare, letting them vent without ever setting a limit. But as they got older, something shifted. His son would call at all hours, expecting Paul to drop everything. His daughter would criticize his choices, how he spent his money, where he lived, like it was her place to judge. And when Paul tried to share his thoughts, they'd cut him off or brush him aside. First, he let it go. They're busy, he'd tell himself. They don't mean it. But one day, after his son snapped at him over something small, Paul felt it, a quiet anger, a realization that he'd been letting them treat him like a doormat. He told me, I've given them everything, and this is what I get? He was hurt, and he thought tolerating it was the answer. But the more he gave in, the worse it got until he decided enough was enough. Paul started setting boundaries. The next time his son called late, demanding help, Paul said, I can't right now. Let's talk tomorrow and figure it out. When his daughter interrupted him mid-sentence, he calmly replied, I'm going to finish what I'm saying. Then you can have your turn. And when they pushed back, because they did, he didn't budge. If they raised their voices or dismissed him, he'd say, I'm happy to talk when you're ready to listen. Until then, I'm stepping away. It wasn't loud or dramatic, just firm. First, his kids didn't like it. His son grumbled, You're being difficult. His daughter accused him of overreacting. But Paul held his ground. He didn't argue or explain himself to death. He just enforced the line. And over time, something clicked. They started calling at reasonable hours. They listened when he spoke. They even apologized once or twice. Why? Because Paul showed them he valued himself enough to demand respect. And they had to meet him there. That's the power of boundaries. They don't just protect you. They teach. When you set a clear line, what you'll accept and what you won't, and follow through, you're not punishing your kids. You're showing them how to treat you. Respect isn't something they'll magically give because you're their parent. It's something they learn through how you respond. If you let them interrupt you, they'll keep interrupting. If you let them take you for granted, they'll keep taking. But when you draw that line and hold it, you're saying, I'm worth more than this. And eventually, they get it not because you yelled or guilt them, but because you made it non-negotiable. So how do you do this in your own life? Start by figuring out where the line needs to be. What bothers you most? Is it when they talk over you? When they expect you to drop everything? When they criticize you like you don't matter? Pinpoint those moments. They're your starting point. Then, decide what's acceptable and what's not. Maybe it's, I won't take calls after 9 p.m. unless it's an emergency. Or, I won't stay in a conversation where I'm being dismissed. Keep it simple but make it yours. Next, communicate it not as a lecture but as a fact. If they interrupt, try, I'll wait until you're done, but I expect the same when I'm speaking. If they demand too much, say, I can't do that right now. Let's find another way. Keep your tone steady. Your words clear, no anger, no apologies, just resolve. The hard part comes next, enforcing it. They'll test you, count on it. They might push back, argue, or act like you're being unreasonable. That's okay. It means they're feeling the change. Don't cave. If they cross the line, follow through. Walk away from the conversation. Say no and mean it. Don't explain yourself into the ground. Your boundary isn't up for debate. Consistency is everything. Every time you hold that line, you're building a new normal. They might resist at first, but they'll adjust. They'll see you're serious, that you're not bending anymore, and they'll start to meet you where you stand. This isn't about cutting them off or starting fights. It's about reclaiming your dignity. You're not saying, "I don't love you." You're saying, "I love you enough to expect better." And here's the beauty of it. When you enforce boundaries, you don't just get respect, you get a better relationship. They start seeing you as a person, not a pushover. They value your time because it's not endless. They listen because you've shown your voice matters. I've seen it happen, parents who go from being taken for granted to being appreciated, all because they stopped letting disrespect slide. Take it from Sarah, a mom I knew who'd let her son talk to her like she was his assistant short, demanding no please or thank you. One day she'd had it. When he barked, "Mom, I need you to pick up my dry cleaning," she said, "I'm not free today. If you need it, plan ahead and ask nicely." He huffed, but she didn't budge. Next time, he softened, "Hey Mom, could you help me out with this if you're free?" It wasn't perfect overnight, but it shifted. She taught him respect was the price of her presence, and he paid it. You deserve that too. You don't have to tolerate being treated like less than you are. Set your boundaries, enforce them with calm strength, and watch what happens. Your kids will learn that respect isn't a choice. It's the standard. And in time, they'll give it not because you forced them, but because you showed them it's the only way you'll be. Action 5. Stop giving without appreciation. Think back to the last time you went out of your way for your kids. Maybe you spent hours cooking their favorite meal, only for them to eat it without a thank you. Or perhaps you dropped everything to help with a last-minute problem, a ride, a loan, a favor, and they barely acknowledged it. You might have brushed it off, telling yourself, "They're busy," or "They don't mean it," but deep down, it nags at you, that quiet feeling that your effort, your time, your love isn't seen the way it used to be. As parents, we're wired to give. We've spent years putting our children first, and we do it because it's who we are. But when that giving becomes a one-way street, when they take it for granted and offer nothing back, it's not just hurtful. It's a signal. If your kids don't respect you, it might be because you've kept giving even when they stopped appreciating it. The fix isn't to give more. It's to stop when it's not valued. Because when you set limits on your generosity, you teach them to treasure it instead of expecting it. Let's unpack this, because it's a shift that hits hard but makes all the difference. Giving is second nature to us as parents. We've stayed up late fixing their messes, shelled out money we didn't have, rearranged our lives to fit theirs, all because we want them to thrive. And for a long time, that worked. When they were young, they'd light up with a hug or a "Thanks, Mom." That made every sacrifice worth it. But as they grow into adults, something changes. They don't always see your effort anymore, or if they do, they don't show it. You might cook a big dinner and get a shrug. You might help them out of a jam and hear, "Yeah, I could have handled it." Or worse, they act entitled, like your time and energy are theirs to claim whenever they want. It's not that they're ungrateful people. It's that you've trained them to expect it by never saying no. And here's the tough truth. When you keep giving to someone who doesn't appreciate it, you don't build love or respect. You build a habit, one where they stop seeing your kindness as a gift and start seeing it as a given. I once knew a woman named Carol, a mom of two who'd always been the go-to fixer in her family. If her son needed cash for rent, she'd send it. If her daughter called with a flat tire, Carol was there, no questions asked. She'd cancel her own plans, dip into her savings, spend her weekends helping them out. All because she wanted to be the mom they could count on. But over time, she noticed something. They never said thank you. Her son would take the money and change the subject. Her daughter would grab the keys after Carol fixed the tire and say, "Okay, see ya." At first, Carol let it slide. "They're stressed," she'd tell herself. "They'll figure it out eventually." But then came the day her son called, demanding she cover a bill because she always did. And something snapped. Carol felt it, the weight of being taken for granted. She told me, "I've given them everything, and they act like it's nothing." She wasn't just hurt. She was exhausted. And she realized that by always saying yes, She taught them her help was automatic or not something to value, but something to expect. So Carol tried something new. The next time her son asked for money, she said, "I can't this time. You'll need to work it out." When her daughter called expecting a ride, Carol replied, "I'm busy today. Let me know if you need a number for a tow." It wasn't harsh, just clear. At first, they were stunned. Her son muttered, "Fine. I'll figure it out." Her daughter huffed, "You're really not helping?" But Carol stood firm. She didn't lecture or guilt them. She just stopped overextending herself. And over weeks, something shifted. Her son started budgeting better, even thanked her once for past help. Her daughter called ahead to ask, not demand, for a favor and said, "I appreciate it, Mom." Why? Because Carol made her generosity a choice, not a guarantee. When she stopped giving without appreciation, they started seeing her effort as valuable again. Something to earn, not assume. That's the heart of it. Unappreciated giving doesn't build respect. It erodes it. When you pour yourself out and get nothing back, you're not just losing time or energy. You're losing your place in their eyes. They stop seeing you as a person with limits and start seeing you as a resource, there to serve whenever they need it. And the moment you can't, or won't, they don't feel grateful for what you've done. They feel annoyed you've stopped. It's not their fault entirely. It's human nature to take what's always there for granted. But it's in your power to change that. By setting limits, you're not being selfish. You're teaching them that your kindness has worth. And when they realize it's not endless, they'll start to treasure it, and you more. So how do you make this shift? Start by noticing where you're giving too much. Are you always the one bailing them out? Do you say yes when you're stretched thin just to avoid disappointing them? Do they expect your help without asking nicely or saying thanks? Spot those patterns. They're your red flags. Then decide where to draw the line. Maybe it's, "I won't help unless they ask respectfully." Or, "I'll say no if it's last minute and I'm busy." It's not about shutting them out. It's about making your giving intentional. Next, test it out. The next time they assume you'll jump in, pause. Say, "I can't right now," or "I need you to handle this one." Keep it simple, calm, no big speech. If they push back, and they might, don't cave. "I've helped when I could, but this time's on you." Then let it sit. Don't rush to fix their frustration. Let them feel the shift. This won't be smooth at first. They might complain, act entitled, or guilt trip you with, "You always used to help." That's normal. They're used to the old you. Hold steady. Every time you say no to unappreciated giving, you're resetting the rules. You're showing them your time and effort aren't free. They come with respect. And here's what happens. They adjust. They start asking instead of demanding. They say thank you because they know it's not a given. They see you as someone who values herself, not just a parent who's always there to give. I've seen it play out, parents who go from being invisible helpers to valued allies, all because they stopped pouring into an empty well. Take James, a dad I knew who'd spent years fixing his daughter's problems, car repairs, late bills, you name it. She'd call, he'd fix, she'd move on. One day he said, "I'm not your mechanic anymore. Call a shop, or let me know ahead of time if you really need me." She was mad. "You're my dad." But he didn't budge. A month later, she called, "Dad, can you help me figure this out? I'll pay for the parts." He helped and she thanked him at first. James didn't stop loving her. He stopped letting her take him for granted. And she respected him more for it. You deserve that too. Your generosity is a gift, not an obligation. Stop giving when it's not seen and watch what happens. Your kids will learn to value you not because you cut them off, but because you showed them your worth isn't up for grabs. It's a lesson they'll carry forward, and it starts with you saying no to being overlooked. Action 6. Build a life outside of them. There's a moment that sneaks up on every parent. When the house gets quieter, the phone stops ringing as often, and the kids you've spent your life revolving around don't need you the way they once did. Maybe they're busy with their own families, their careers, their friends. You're proud of them, of course. You raised them to stand on their own. But that pride can come with a pang of loneliness, a sense that your purpose has shifted, and you're not sure where you fit anymore. It's tempting to keep orbiting them, calling too much, waiting for their visits, hoping they'll fill that space they used to occupy. You might think, if I stay close, they'll still see me as important. But here's a truth that can set you free. When your happiness hinges on your children, they don't respect you more, they feel burdened. The real way to earn their admiration isn't by clinging to them. It's by building a life outside of them. When you find your own joy, your own meaning, they'll look at you with new eyes, not just as a parent, but as a person they can't help but respect. Let's sit with this because it's a big shift. For years, your kids were your world. You woke up thinking about their schedules, their struggles, their dreams. Your days were shaped by their needs, school runs, late-night talks, patching up their heartbreaks. And in return, you got purpose. They were your reason, your joy, your everything. But as they grow up and step into their own lives, that center starts to wobble. You might find yourself checking your phone, hoping for a text. You might linger on their social media, wondering why they haven't called. You might even feel a little lost, like your role has shrunk to the one who waits. It's natural to want to hold on to them, to keep being the anchor they lean on. But here's the catch. When your whole life revolves around them, they don't see you as strong or vibrant. They see you as someone who's stuck, someone who's only there for them, and that doesn't inspire respect. It inspires pity, or worse, a sense of obligation. I once knew a woman named Grace, a mom of 3 who'd poured her heart into her kids. After her husband passed, they became her everything, her reason to get up, her connection to the world. She'd call them daily, offer advice they didn't ask for, plan her weeks around their rare visits. But as they built their own lives, Grace felt the distance grow. They'd answer her calls with short, distracted replies. Visits turned into quick drop-ins, and she'd spend hours afterward replaying what went wrong. She told me, "I just want to feel needed again." She didn't see it then, but her kids were pulling away not because they didn't love her, but because they felt smothered. Her life was so wrapped up in them that they didn't know how to connect without carrying her emotional weight. Grace was waiting for them to give her purpose, and it was pushing them further away. Then one day, Grace decided to try something different. She stopped hovering. Instead of calling every day, she signed up for a photography class she'd always wanted to take. She started hiking with a group of friends, capturing sunrises she'd never have seen otherwise. She volunteered at a local shelter, finding joy in helping others. She didn't cut her kids out. She just stopped making them her sole focus. And something incredible happened. Her daughter texted one day, "Mom, you're hiking now? Since when?" Her son called, curious. "What's this about photography? Send me some shots." They started reaching out, not because she begged them to, but because they were drawn to this new version of her, a woman with her own passions, her own spark. Grace built a life outside of them, and suddenly, they respected her in a way they hadn't before. She wasn't just their mom anymore. She was someone they admired. That's the power of this shift. When you create your own world, you change how they see you. People, even your own kids, respect those who have purpose, who don't need to lean on others to feel alive. When your happiness doesn't depend on their attention, they don't feel pressured to prop you up. Instead, they're free to connect with you out of curiosity, out of awe, out of genuine interest. You become more than the parent who's always there. You become a person with depth, with independence, with a life they want to know about. And that's when the respect grows, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it by living fully. So how do you start building that life? First, take a look at where you are. Are you waiting for your kids to fill your days, their calls, their visits, their approval? Do you feel empty when they're not around, like your purpose is tied to them? Be honest, that's where the change begins. Then, ask yourself, what's mine? What lights me up that isn't about them? Maybe it's something you loved before kids took over: painting, gardening, dancing. Maybe it's something new, learning a language, joining a book club, traveling solo. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be yours. Start small. 1 hour a week doing something that's not about anyone else. A walk in the park with a podcast. A class where you meet new faces. Project that's just for you. Next, commit to it. Don't let it slide when your kids call with a last-minute need. Protect that time like it's sacred. If they ask, "What are you up to?" Tell them, "I'm heading to my painting group," or "I'm trying this new recipe for myself." Let them see you're not sitting around waiting.